Hi, welcome to Miss Clark Reads to You. So, we got cut off in the last minute or two of me reading the final paragraph of The Masque of the Red Death and pointing out some last details on mood. So, let's do that now. So, let me give a summary of what we've discovered so far. So, what we discovered was there's a lot of shifting of moods here. It doesn't mean that we can't write about one mood. We could write and analyze just the suspense. We could analyze and support just the bizarreness of this tale, the mood of the bizarre, the mood of the peculiar. We could focus on how dismal this scene is without the revelers, the maskers, even really knowing how dismal it is, which would lead us into talking about the irony of the entire scene, of the entire story. That they believed in their mind they were secure, their prince, who they honored and trusted, had created safety for them so that they could party and enjoy. And then in the end, with all that security, they still could not escape. They still could not escape the inevitable of the Red Death. And so let's look at something that Poe brings up so that we can see the full circle ending here. The Red Death had long devastated the country. So the word choice is devastated. It had destroyed the country. No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. So this right here, no plague, no pestilence had ever been so fatal, so deadly. And in its deadliness, it creates a hideous scene. Blood, seizures, and then a half an hour, everyone's dead. Who catches it? So let's look how Poe brings that full circle in the final paragraph. Yeah, this won't be a long video. And now was acknowledged the presence of the Red Death. So let's look at the word choice here. It was acknowledged as though they were in denial, and they were. More irony here. They were in denial of the Red Death from the moment they walked into that castellated abbey. They were in denial when they bolted the doors and believed that the prince had provided all the provisions for them, anything that they could need. Because the one thing that they needed, he couldn't provide, which was absolute protection. Now, I'm not saying he didn't try, but let's go back to what Poe told us about this disease. Poe told us no pestilence had ever been so fatal. It's the most deadly plague that ever existed. So this is a plague on speed, literal and figurative, because of how fast it attacks. So I'm showing you the full circle of the beginning and the ending here. Poe's talent for writing. So the Red Death had come like a thief in the night. So this is where we got cut off. Red Death came and stole their lives. When a thief comes in to steal something, it's never or quite rarely in the daylight. It's best to steal things at night, under the cover of night, which, if we go back to that imagery, the room that Red Death walked into was the black sable room, the night room. And one by one dropped the revelers in the blood-bedewed halls of their revel, and died each in the despairing posture of his fall. Now, let's look at a couple words here too that are very sensory. Okay, blood-bedewed halls. So bedewed, if you go down right here to our as if with dew. So this is metaphorical here, but it's also imagery. Why? Why are the halls covered in blood? Because, as Poe told us in the introduction, blood was its avatar in seal. The pores just oozed it out. So now all the halls are just, it's like a river of blood inside that imperial suite where they were partying. And they just dropped in the despairing posture of his fall. So look at this word, despair. You could write how despairing a mood this story is. Everything from the symptoms of the plague to the gonging of the clock to the imperial suite to the last scene where the mummer shows up and makes a mockery of them. And the life of the ebony clock went out. So look at this. This is the final contrast here. The life of the ebony clock went out. Now, we had just seen, so nothing to party about here. See, revelers. Okay, revelers, they were partying, and now they're dead. Okay. The life of the ebony clock went out, and with that, the last of the gay. So as the clock stopped working, all of them stopped working too, because they were dead. And the flames of the tripods expired. So here's another word that means death. So the flames went out, the clock went dead, the people went dead, and darkness filled the halls, and decay filled the halls, and Mr. Red Death, or Miss, it's personification, it's an entity, it's a being that has been brought to life and walks amongst them, held illimitable dominion. Picture this imagery. He holds dominion over all. Not just all the people, although mostly them, but the clock, the prince, the darkness, the decay. When it's dominion, you dominate. Think about the word that was used. Let's clear that. And go back up to the top. Almost done. Prince Prospero was happy and dauntless and sagacious, and when his dominions, there's that word again. See the full circle here? When his dominions were half depopulated, he summoned to his presence 1,000 hale and light-hearted friends. So his dominions outside the walls are half gone, and he brings his light-hearted friends inside. Oops, let's clear that. Then, once they're inside, they can't get out. Their bodies are there forever because they walled themselves in. They welded themselves in. So the Red Death is the true prince here. It held dominion. over all things. So even though Prince Prosperous was dominated his people, he could not really rule them, because death, that was the true king. It's quite dismal. It's quite ironic that he believed in his heart and in his mind that he could save his favorite friends. But in the end, Red Death is the ultimate dominator, or death is the ultimate dominator. And in this case, Red Death, because again, if we go full circle, okay, if we go full circle, it was the most fatal and hideous pestilence ever. And there's evidence that it was so hideous, because if you go back and you look at it and you study it, the way it looked, okay, all of this here is how it looked. The figure was tall and gaunt and shrouded. All of this is how it was, and besprinkled with the scarlet horror. So there's some final commentary on the imagery, the full circle conclusion, and the mood of the Masque of the Red Death. I hope you enjoyed my interpretation, and I hope that it helps you either to understand the story better or to write about the story. I hope you have a nice day, and I look forward to reading to you again. Bye-bye.